I guess we'll hit it to the bottom of the docket. Ladies and gentlemen, it's 4 o'clock. We'll convene the Budget and Finance Committee. We're going to take a couple bills out of order. The first one will be RS 2014-1317. Approves a grant of $68,000 from the Davidson County Mental Health and Veterans Court Assistance Foundation to the Davidson County General Sessions Court to fund a Veterans Court. We have Judge Blackburn here with us who would like to address any of your issues. Do I have a motion? Any discussion? Judge, would you, if you'd like to speak? We'd love to hear you from you.
Thank you. Thank you for your vote of approval. I appreciate that. We're really excited to have gotten this grant from the Department of Justice and think it will really enhance our opportunities with the veterans here in Davidson County. Thank you.
Thank you, Judge. All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Bill 2014-1318 approves an application for a state grant of $99,500 to the Davidson County Juvenile Court to create an elementary education service coordinator position. Have a motion? Motion been second. We have Judge Callaway with us this evening to address any concerns. If Judge Callaway, would you like to?
I just want to say thank you for your support for this. We are trying to enhance our services and starting in the elementary education early because we know that if we can get our services in early in the child's life, then there's less likelihood to have delinquency later on. And we believe this grant will help us to assist in that efforts. And we thank you for your support.
And we thank you. Any discussion? Councilman Glover.
Yes, Judge. Can you explain to us, please, how many schools will be involved and how this exactly will work in the schools to keep the children from out-of-school suspension?
So we would like to be involved in all of the schools. Currently, through our Metro Student Attendance Center and our Truancy and National Initiatives, we do have caseworkers in several different schools. We don't have nearly like the number that we would like to have. And the ones that we have currently are primarily focused on the high schools as well as the middle schools. With this particular grant, we would have the ability to have at least one more caseworker that would focus on all of the elementary schools. And our belief is that if you are stopping the trend of suspensions from school, then you're eventually stopping the cycle of imprisonment and recidivism. And so that's our goal, to stop that.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Councilor Lee Gilmore.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Judge Callaway. I appreciate your enthusiasm, and I remember you were working on things like this before you even assumed this position. I just wanted to hear a little bit more. How does it look like on a day-to-day, just so I can get a better idea?
How would this position work? Mm-hmm. What this position would basically do is field referrals from the school system. And so if a school is having a child that's on the borderline or has an issue that could cause suspension, they would make a referral to this position. That person would go to the school, meet with the child, get permission to meet with the parent as well, and see what it is and what services need to happen in that child's life, in that family's life, so that we can prevent suspensions, we can prevent further any delinquency acts. And so hopefully, if we were to have at least as one to start one position, we could do it very well, expand it, so we can have more positions and working throughout all of the elementary schools throughout Metro.
Am I on? Well, thank you so much, and I appreciate you sticking with your mission of one of the things you originally. I appreciate you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Council. Thank you, Judge.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate you being here. Appreciate hearing your explanation. Thank you. Okay, we'll proceed with the.
We need to take the vote on that.
Oh, I'm sorry. All in favor? Oppose? I'm trying to get ahead of myself. Motion passes. Okay, now we'll begin with the head of the docket, RS 2014-1314. Authorizes the issuance of general obligation refunding bonds in an amount not to exceed $151,500,000. Have a motion? So moved. Have a second? Discussion, Councilman Stein.
Mr. Riebling, my assumption is that we are doing this because it's ultimately going to save us some money to redo this. Would you walk us through how that works?
Yes, sir, Councilman.
I'm getting there. There we are.
All right, Councilman, yes, you are absolutely correct that this is a refunding series which is designed to generate interest rate savings over the remaining life of the bonds. So simply put, you have bonds that are in the 4% or 5% coupons that we can refund in today's market, potentially refund in today's market at a lower interest rate and thereby save interest cost over the life of the bonds. We estimate we have a policy that we need to save at least 3.5% present value savings. We obviously hope to do better than that, and we think it'll generate, somewhere in the range of $4.5 million of savings. So it's purely just saving interest cost over the remaining life of the bonds. We're not extending the life of the bonds. We're simply refinancing to take advantage of lower interest cost.
And this is a negotiated sale because it saves us money rather than going through a competitive process?
Well, the principal advantage of refunding issues on a negotiated sale is you're not tied to a specific date in which to do the sale. If you do a competitive bid process, you say you're going to issue refunding bonds on January the 13th, pick a date, which may or may not be the right day, the best, most optimal date to do the refunding. So when you do negotiate it, you have it in the market and it allows you to pick the day in which the market is best attuned to achieve the maximum level of savings.
Thank you.
Councilman Glover.
So, Mr. Riebling, do we, when we have a kind of a floating date, as it were, is there an expiration time that, if we approve this today, that at some point in the future, let's just say late February, March, April, the conditions have never become right? Is this kind of an open order for you to do the refinance, or do we have an expiration date?
In essence, it is an open order. There's no expiration date of that. It would actually take sort of an action of the council to repeal the resolution to change it. Our theory is that interest rates are low and are going to stay low for the foreseeable future, but not a real long foreseeable future. And the rates are generally, I think most economists think that rates are going to start rising sort of in the second half of next calendar year. And so what we want to do is, if subject to your approval, is be in position to have it all ready to sell sometime in January, and then we just watch it day to day. I mean, literally, we kind of get on a call, every day and say, is it a good time to do it, and then put the order out like that. But there doesn't really have an expiration date on it, no, sir.
So if we approve this today, then are we approving that unless it's 3.5 or 3.5% or greater savings, then you basically would not exercise the option?
That's correct. If we can't achieve 3.5% present value savings, we will not do the transaction. And I might add that we might not do the entire, we might not refund all the bonds. We could do a lower amount, but even at a lower amount, we still will achieve a minimum of 3.5%.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Riebling. Council Lady Dowell.
Thank you. I just had a quick question. You answered part of it about the savings. Do we pay some type of fee each time we do these reissues? And is that factored into that 3.5% discount?
Yes, the 3.5% present value savings is net of all cost.
Okay.
So if we sell the bonds, we will incur cost to underwriting costs to sell the bonds and to our financial advisor, but we only incur those costs if we do the sale of the bonds.
Okay. And the other question is, how do we determine who handles the reissue? Is that something that we do competitively, or do we have someone in-house that we've
We have a financial advisor who is independent and gives us advice, but periodically we go through a process where we identify a group of underwriters who would serve as our senior team, and then we wait and we pick and choose from that based on who presents us with the idea, who comes forward with the better ideas, and things of that nature. But we'll go through a process to identify which firms that basically we'll do business with every couple years or so.
Okay, thank you.
Seeing no others in the queue, we have a motion for approval. All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. 2014-13-15 appropriates $9,336,300 from the general fund reserve to 10 metro departments to purchase miscellaneous equipment and repairs to buildings. Do I have a motion? And second, for discussion, Council Lady Allen. Oh, it went out on me. Hold on. Try it again.
Thank you. I just had I noticed that one of the items funded was the B-cycle stations. Have those locations been chosen yet?
Council Lady Allen, that money will flow through to the Downtown Partnership, which manages that program. They will select the locations.
They have been selected, I believe. Council Lady Allen?
Council Lady Allen.
I believe I'm looking for my notes to say exactly where they have been selected, and I don't have that in front of me. I'll get to you before but I think one of them is in your district.
Oh.
Kind of cut to the chase of the matter, heart of the matter, right?
Thank you.
Councilman Stein.
Thank you. A couple of questions. For general services, we certainly wouldn't want you to be here and us not pay appropriate. Tell us, this is obviously a decent amount of money. I'm just curious as to where this puts us in terms of our plan to replace fleet and what the particular emphasis is of this $3 million.
I don't know if you received, I sent to John a spreadsheet that has the vehicles and equipment that we're anticipating purchasing with this money. It's a small amount of money, Councilman, for our needs and what's actually on the replacement list right now. But if you look at this list, it'll go to fire, juvenile court, police, public works, and the sheriff. And this is replacing high mileage vehicles that we have. The council approved during the last budget cycle a fairly large amount for heavy equipment, which we have ordered that equipment, but this is focusing more on sedans and anything, trucks and sedans.
And thank you. I apologize. We have not gotten that list yet, but I know that we'll get it in the next little bit, and thank you.
Okay.
Thank you that. Mr. Chair, a couple of other questions for Ms. Cole and the Arts Commission.
Yes, sir.
Jen, walk us through this a little bit, because there is 1% for the art funds, and there is money there used, obviously, to purchase art and to repair it. And this is the 4% fund, and my recollection is that we have used this fund before for repair, but give us sort of the rationale for why we're using 4% funds rather than 1% funds here.
Sure. When the council passed the 1% ordinance in 2000, I believe it was the intent at that time of the ordinance for the 1% fund really to be used for the acquisition of artwork and for major capital repairs. Since that time, we have, the collection is now more than 40 pieces, and it has everyday wear and tear maintenance, everything from things breaking to things being vandalized to tagging, et cetera. And so in FY12, the council approved a $25,000 allocation from 4% for us to do that kind of light repair and maintenance and ongoing work, everything from repairing handles to things that skateboarders occasionally do to our public art collection to tagging. And really that's the difference between 1% repairs, which are really major capital repairs, to what we're requesting now, which is sort of the regular care and feeding of the public collection. We're at the end of the money that was allocated in FY12 with repairs that have either been ordered or already encumbered, and this new allocation would be to cover the collection going forward for the next few fiscal years.
So this allocation actually, the $25,000 you actually spent over a few years.
Yes, that's
And so you anticipate that this is essentially a fund to repair and maintain for at least?
I would say at least 2 to 3 years. Because again, we will use the 1% fund for a major capital repair. An example would be when the Ghost Ballet was flooded during the flood, we had to replace electrical and do a lot of paint repair. Those were considered major capital repairs, and we used 1% money. However, for example, the bike rack at the Donaldson train station was vandalized and an arm was broken off of it. That wasn't considered a major capital. It was just a minor repair, and we needed to use alternate funds for that.
Thank you very much. Mr. Chair, one other department, if I may.
Right.
Folks from General Hospital. Again, relatively speaking, this is not a large amount of money, but because we always want the public to know how we are doing things better at General Hospital, just give us a feel for what kinds of renovations will be done with this money.
Yes, sir. Be happy to. Bob Lonis, CFO. We've got about half of that $350,000 earmarked to upgrade our OB and L&D area. Basically new flooring, new paint, freshen up that area. It was the #1 area that the medical staff as well as the board felt needed to be upgraded. And the other item is actually the AccuDose pharmacy dispensers. They're kind of like vending machines, but they don't take quarters. You have to want them, with the patient ID and the nurse's ID to be able to get medications. It's basically a decentralized pharmaceutical inventory throughout the hospital. So those are the two items.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Vice Chair Garrett, I apologize for not calling you.
No problem. I just had a question, just when I was thinking about general services up here, when the vehicles are sold as they're sold, I think, on our internet site, items that are bought with the 4% fund, does money go back to the 4% fund when they're sold, or does it go back to just general revenue? And I guess I ought to known this 20 years ago.
Well, the 4% fund is really just the general fund. It's just
Right.
a portion of the general fund. So the EBID sales just go back into the undesignated fund balance of the general fund for appropriation in the next year.
But they really don't go, but they really not, they're designated, this 4% fund is a designated fund for replacement and maintenance.
Correct.
But when we sell those vehicles, it doesn't get back into that really.
No.
Is that something we should think about?
No, because the 4% fund is 4% of your budget, basically. Right. So regardless of what the budget is, you have to take 4% of that and set it aside. So you couldn't replenish that with some other funds and say, okay, now we don't have to make it as big. I mean, it's.
Oh, I wasn't thinking about that. I was thinking about every year we've got 4% to spend on maintenance and replacement, and then these funds that are raised from the future sale of items that were purchased with 4% funds going towards 4% items that have to be funded in the next year.
Well, I mean,
does that make any sense?
Again, it's all the general fund, so it's,
Okay,
I mean,
okay.
money's fungible. It just, it kind of.
It just seemed like to me that I know we're going to spend 4% of every year of every budget, but it seems like we've got these funds coming over here that are being spent out of the 4% fund from, say, last year, and they may be sold, this next year, and they come back to the general fund. And here we go, we're back to the 4% again, but it just seems like to me that maybe we could build the 4% fund up a little more with those funds that bought those vehicles with. I guess that's 4% of the sale. Well, I was thinking maybe 100%. As my colleague over here, 4% goes to the sale, but I was thinking 100% of the sale ought to go back into it. But we'll talk about it later. Thank you.
I would like to interject, while we're on this subject of general services and the cars, Ms. Whittemore, I have a question concerning the...
And this list was supposed to be put on the desk, it inadvertently didn't, but Elise is making copies now and is bringing it.
Everyone will have council, we will have a copy of the letter of the equipment for general services being purchased, the cars. Ms. Whittemore, my question is, is it broken down when you sell all the police, I mean not police, but all the vehicles? Is it broken down as to how much how much we obtain from EBID or wherever? I think that's how you sell them. Is that right?
Yes, all the surplus vehicles are sold through EBID, and then we get a report back on how that's broken down. There's very detailed records kept on each sale. And like Councilman was saying, it does go back to the general fund unless it's a designated fund. For example, drug task force, if the vehicle was purchased with that drug task force funding, then those funds would go back to that particular fund.
If those sales are, if those figures are readily available, would you mind providing those to the council, please?
Yeah, do you want it for the last year, for the last 2 years? What-
Just last year will be, the
Okay.
last time you sold the inventory of the vehicles.
Okay, we'll be
And
happy to do that.
Just give us some idea of what it looks like.
Okay, be happy to do that.
Thank you. Council Lady Moore.
Thank you, Chair. I have a question for Mr. Durbin on the Information Technology Services equipment.
Yes, ma'am.
I was looking at the breakdown on the Justice Integration Services and then the state trial courts. Would you have anything to do with their technology or software licenses? Would you?
I would not. The directors of those departments are here to speak specifically about those. We work with them, but not on these specific items.
Okay. So most of your equipment is just more or less just software update?
Well, it's licensing for Microsoft Office and the Windows that are on your computers and Metro computers, and then our typical end-of-life replacement funds that I'm up here at every 4% to beg for.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Durbin. That's all, Chair.
Council Lady Gilmore.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I had 2 questions, one for the Metro Arts Commission.
Yes, ma'am?
Thank you, Director Cole. The question was, do you have a list, or you order, how do you decide which items need repaired?
At this point, we have a short list of items that will need repair into the next coming fiscal year, but this is more of a preemptive request so that we don't have to come annually for specific items. We don't really know when things are going to break. The preemptive things that we can do is we're building a database with civil engineers, which is our engineering and structural subcontractor, to put all of the collection in a regular and routine maintenance database so that things are looked at annually. But we also we can't anticipate necessarily when something's going to be break or be vandalized. And so part of this is to have enough money in reserve so we can fix things that we don't know are going to break.
Yeah, that's great. So do you have a criteria, though? Say if 3 things break in the different areas of the city, is it?
They're fixed immediately. We don't ever let anything stay unrepaired.
And so is enough money to fix all of them at the same level? Or
Right, we believe so. So the last approval was $25,000, and that was in FY12, and we are just now getting to the end of that money in encumbrances. The collection has grown some since then, but we feel very strongly that this amount of money is more than enough to cover routine repairs and maintenance. We bid them as soon as, if we don't have a contractor already, we bid them and get them repaired ASAP. So.
And all of them are able to be covered at the same time within the same turnaround?
Yes, such that our vendors can. We don't individually repair them, but based on the level of the repair. The other thing to note is that if it's damaging the structural integrity of the art piece, we often will work in conjunction with the artist, and that will sometimes take slightly longer. An example is that in District 6, the bird in Shelby Park was vandalized. Someone broke a piece of the beak off. We actually worked, it took us slightly longer to do that repair. We could have just had someone weld, but we actually had to have a new beak part redone, and we actually worked on the structural integrity to make sure that it was less likely to be vandalized in the future. So each repair takes what it takes because we're working in consultation with the artist, also to improve the piece potentially. So I hope that answers the question. What I will tell you is if we are aware of something being vandalized or a repair, we've moved to fix it as quickly as humanly possible.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. And so is there a way that constituents can report to you, or do you have a system where you're always evaluating the art yourself, and so you already know?
Right, so one of the things Civic does with us is actually put our collection in a database where it's being reviewed. Each piece is at least being fixed or cleaned on a regular basis, but we actually do take reports from citizens all the time. So our public art manager will take those reports, and we also have departments will also frequently, if it's on their property, a department will report, and then we'll execute a repair order as quickly as possible.
Okay, sounds good. So they would just call your office directly?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I have one more question for a different department.
Okay.
That would be the public library.
Mr. Oliver.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Mr. Oliver. I just wanted to see if you could tell in a little bit more detail, because we don't have that sheet, what books and periodicals and library materials would be covered. It just says
Okay.
books and periodicals and what I have.
We receive several allocations per year to the overall fund for the library, and this will take us to, I believe, 1.5 of the total 3 million that we're looking for this year. And we will use it for purchases of everything from books to e-books to online subscriptions. So it goes to our general budget where we go after the different vendors and apply that.
And are you still ordering as many hard periodicals as you are the electronic, or is there?
We've actually reduced the paper copies of the periodicals, and we have services that are online that you can actually download those. So we're still doing both, but fewer in paper copy.
Okay, good deal. And then I saw something in, I don't know if it was Brentwood or Wilson County, where the librarian or the director there, they had taken where students could use the technology and take it home. Like, so they had some kind of jacks for them because they realized that there's a deficit. And I know in our city we have the same thing where students don't have access to technology. So the library just purchased them. I think it was like from, I won't even say the company, but I'll just say like a T-Mobile or Verizon, so the kids could check it out, and that way they would have access to the internet at their houses. Do you know anything about that? Or?
I'm not familiar with which service they're actually using. We have a number of different options where people can actually check out tablets and laptops within our buildings, and a few are starting to go out, but that's primarily an in-building service. Right?
Okay, so it's not anything for the students to actually take and say if they don't have, like I have internet service, but a child from a particular area or some of them may not have access to internet. We don't have anything like that.
No, although we have been in discussions with the schools about a number of initiatives that they're going at.
Okay, and I'm gonna find that. It was something on the news, and it was one of our kind of close to us where they're doing it, and I thought it was a really great idea.
Cool. I'd be interested in that.
Okay, thank you so much.
And Councilman Glover.
Mr. Cooper or Mr. Riebling, can you help just us understand, it says the balance in the general fund as of December the 10th, 2014 was $37.5 million. This consists of unrealized revenues in fiscal year 2015 of about $23 million. If that unrealized revenue was not there, would we be down to about $15 million in our reserve fund for the 4% fund? Or that's not really the way I understand that it operates, but can you help me understand that?
Well, the unrealized revenue just means, we're on an accrual accounting basis, and so as the various revenue sources generate revenue for Metro, then it will...
So we're not exceeding the 4%?
No.
Okay. All right, very good. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Councilman Glover. Councilman Garrett, do you still wish to speak? Okay. Okay, seeing no others in the queue, this vote for approval on Bill 2014-1315. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Bill passes. Okay, RS 2014-1316, Councilman Scott Davis appropriates $100,000 from the undesignated fund balance of the general fund of the General Services District to Neighborhood Resource Center to provide funding for its operations. Do I have a motion? Okay, motion, and it has been seconded. We have discussion. Councilman Scott Davis.
Okay. I'd like to motion for a one meeting deferral and with a few minutes to explain.
Absolutely. Second. Motion's been seconded.
I'm going to move this because the first of the year I will be rolling off of the board. Mainly right now, also I'll be getting another sponsor to carry the bill. What is happening in our neighborhoods right now? A lot of our associations, West, North, East, South, Nashville, get a lot of support, a lot of free training from the Neighborhood Resource Center. And right now, we need to give our neighborhoods their voice back. And this is why I say it, because you'll say, well, I speak for my neighbors, I'm the councilman, and yes, all of you do, and do it very well. What has happened, though, after the normal budget process happened, for the nonprofits we all love, their funding was yanked from them. They did not have a chance to apply for it. What has happened since then, they have raised thousands and thousands of dollars, off the sweat of their brows. They've stabilized everything. A new board was appointed. And at the time, I rolled onto a board in order for me to help raise funds. Now that I am going to be gone the first of the year, just so that there's no sign of impropriety, all of us know all the hard work the Neighborhood Resource Center has done. And more importantly, the work they're continuing to do. They hold codes training, planning training for all our neighbors on the weekends, and they help facilitate a lot of activities. Madison, East Nashville, North Nashville. It is not located in my neighborhood, but they do help a lot of us, and I encourage all of you to wrap your arms around them in the first of this year. And also the chairman is here to answer any questions afterwards, and they have been fundraising all this time. And that's why they're afloat right now, but they need our help to make it and to keep going. And I just appreciate your help. I move to defer this one meeting, Mr. President.
Motion's been made to defer one meeting. Councilman Stein?
I'm on the deferral. It would be very helpful between now and when this comes back before us, because this is an unusually high percentage of a nonprofit's budget, perhaps the largest percentage of a nonprofit budget ever granted by this government, because normally our grant process is less than 10%, and even when we do things out of the ordinary, we don't do this large amount of a total budget. It would be really helpful if we could see a proposed budget for the organization outlining both the use of this funds as well as how they're going to spend the money they've raised, and so what their total budget would be, how they're going to allocate the resources, so that we could evaluate that in the course of our deliberations, Mr. Chair.
Okay, you are asking for that itemized for the budget, for their
Yeah, I don't think we have any authority over a nonprofit to do it, but it'd be very helpful to our deliberations to see how the money would be spent, and in fact, how this fits into their overall fundraising, and just a budget that they propose to use once they have this money and all the money they've raised.
By 2 weeks. By the time of the next
That would be very helpful.
council meeting.
Mr. Chair, it doesn't have to be a line by line, but it would be very nice to know what the general areas of expenditure are. How much for salaries, how much for programming, that kind of thing, for us to see how their total budget will play out if this money comes.
Okay, I think the sponsor has heard your the concerns, and also the director is here. Is that something we need to make a motion of?
No.
So anyway, you made your point, and I'm sure they're aware of it. So, Councilman Davis, if you would mind providing that or having that provided. There is so we'll go with the motion of deferral. All in favor of one meeting deferral? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
You may not get it, but that was a good move, so just get everything you can, get it.
Next bill, RS 2014-1319, authorizes Director of Public Property Administration to exercise an option to purchase property at the corner of Hillsborough Road and Old Hickory Boulevard for $740,000 and accepts a donation in the amount of $400,000 to be applied toward the purchase, conservation, and preservation of the property. Councilman Todd is not here at the time, so any second? I have a letter, yes. Motion has been made and seconded. Councilman Stein.
I apologize, Mr. Chair, for talking so much, but I just wanted to mention I was at the event today on the Kellytown site, and this particular purchase, which will involve $750,000 of Metro money, but $400,000 of it is coming from the Friends of Kellytown and the City of Forest Hills. It's great to have a partnership with one of the satellite cities in a positive way, but I also wanted to pass on that one of the speakers today was from the Native American Indian Association, who really outlined in very emotional terms what this means to Native Americans in all of Middle and all of Tennessee in terms of being a major step forward for acknowledging their heritage and their achievements. And this little piece of property not only fits into our plans for having a healthier community and preserving green space, but it also will have very, very important historical and social significance for our county, none of which was I aware of before I heard this gentleman speak today. And so I just wanted to bring that to the entire council's attention. This is really, really good project and well beyond what you would just read in the simple analysis, and I urge approval.
Thank you, Councilman Stein. Seeing no others in the queue for discussion, all for approval? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. RS 2014-1320 approves a state grant of $1,116,000 for the Metro Board of Health for sexually transmitted disease services and HIV and AIDS prevention and surveillance. Have a motion? Second. Motion second. Any discussion? Council Lady Gilmore.
Thank you, Chair Pridemore.
Thank you.
I would just like the director, Mr. Tom, if he could come and speak about that. Mr. Sharp, I call him Mr. Tom.
Mr. Sharp?
Yes, thank you.
Yes, ma'am, that's a standard program grant. Most of the money is federal. It's for disease surveillance. They do some services. They do partner tracking. They do testing, rapid testing. They partner with folks to help do testing, rapid HIV testing mostly.
And I just wanted to know, do you have certain communities that you target?
Yes.
Is that what you're basing it on? Is it data, or you just kind of go out and you're just making people more aware?
Well, I mean, in any infectious disease, you tend to have pockets of people who are infected with that disease. And so, yes, they certainly are aware of that, and they target those kinds of communities.
So they use these funds to do that, to target those areas?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sharp. Council Lady Gilmore? Councilman Steiner, is this a previous queue or, okay.
Yep.
All right, seeing no others in the queue, all in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. RS 2014-1321 approves a state grant of $1,741,847 to the Nashville Career Advancement Center to prepare dislocated workers for re-entry into the labor force. Have a motion? Second, duly second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. RS 2014-1322 approves a state grant of $1,722,957 to the Nashville Career Advancement Center to prepare adult workers for re-entry into the labor force. I have a motion. And duly seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. RS 2014-1323 approves a state grant of $22,125 to the Nashville Career Advancement Center for activities that increase the employment, retention, and earnings of participants. Do I have a motion? Motion duly seconded. We have discussion. Council Lady Gilmore.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I like how you say my name so happily each time. It can be for several reasons, but I just think it's because you're happy for me to push it.
I'm very happy.
Good. Is this the one that deals with the youth, for the youth?
Yes.
It is, or is it the next one? Because it was like 4 on there.
No, the next one is the youth.
Okay, that's the one I want, so.
All right. Seeing no more in the queue, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. RS 2014-1324 approves an amendment to a state grant to the Nashville Career Advancement Center to establish programs and deliver services to prepare youth workers for the entry into the labor force. Motion? And then duly seconded. Council Lady Gilmore.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If someone from the NCAC could come and talk about the youth and how that program looks.
Brian Clark with the Nashville Career Advancement Center. Brian Clark with the Nashville Career Advancement Center. In general, the program's going very well. This is the standard formula funding for the year. The services to the youth are subcontracted out to a 4-county region: Davidson, Rutherford, Wilson, and Trousdale. And like I say, services are going well. One point of interest, the Workforce Investment Act has been refunded for next year, so it'll be called the WIOA in the future for you. They've added the O. And that will increase the age for youth from 16 to 21 to 16 to 24. So we'll have a slightly older age group, and the emphasis will be more towards out-of-school youth.
Thank you. I wanted to know specifically how the program looked. Like, who do you target? I think, and I'll tell you the reason I'm asking. When I was growing up here, every summer, there were opportunities for youth to have jobs in the city, and I was hired by the parks and was able to start working at 14. I was a bad girl. My daughter often I just gathered the kids' clothes, and then I went on to be a lifeguard. But it was very important, and it kept me out of trouble and also gave me the opportunity to make some money. So when I see $2 million, I'm just curious to know, what are we doing with this? I heard you say there's 4 regions, but how does that look for the students that we have or the youth that we have in Davidson County? Because summer jobs, or just however you do it, are very important as it relates to crime, learning work ethic, helping parents out. So I wanted to hear a little bit more specificity about it.
Yes, unfortunately, as you probably know, the summer funding was removed several years back, so we don't have a summer youth program. There's a small initiative, the Mayor's Employment Initiative, so we have a few interns. I think I may misquote this, but about 20 interns, 30, during the summer months. However, no money is specific to the summer youth program like it used to be. As it relates to jobs, under WIOA, 20% of the money will be set aside for work experience. So there will be money earmarked for work experience. Unfortunately, it's just 20%, but
Council Lady Gilmore, are you?
I'm not really clear, and maybe I can get more clear. I'm still not clear in my mind from hearing the explanation of what the students or the kids are doing. I know they're not working in the summer, but where are they working and what jobs they're doing? It's just not clear to me. I would like more clarity. And maybe something he has to come back on. I mean, it's no pressure, but it's just for $2 million, I'm just not clear.
well, it's not an employment program. It's more working with basic skills deficiency, working to improve your skills in school, increasing your all the life skills that you might need, supplying support services for individuals who are trying to get to school, trying to get people to re-engage with school, trying to get kids to re-engage in employment, that sort of thing. I can give you a lot. We can give you a lot of specific information about the youth program. I'd be happy to do that. We have websites and Facebook pages and all that good stuff too. So happy to supply info.
I would ask a question. It doesn't have to be for today. It's no pressure. But I would like to know what districts are affected and how those programs look, and what more specifically, kind of drilling down on the data, what ages those students are, what there's 35 districts here,
yes.
What districts they're coming from in the Davidson County area, and what outcomes are being achieved from that.
We have that information mapped and be happy to share it.
Okay, I would like that, and for all of the council members that are interested as well.
Sure, happy to.
Thank you.
Thank you. Council Lady Dow.
I was going to say the same thing. I would like to have that information because I really didn't get good clarification about how the money is spent, because I'm specifically interested in, like, what type of program is it administered through the school where a person is teaching students life skill in a classroom. I'm more interested in how, how it's applied. And just as she was saying, I'm very interested in reinitiating some type of youth summer program in the city, so I'll be interested in getting this information for those purposes.
Great, be happy to get it to you right away.
Seeing no others in the queue, all in favor of 1324? Opposed? Motion passes. RS 2014-1325, Councilman Westerholm, who has a letter, approves an amendment to an agreement between the Metro Board of Parks and Recreation and the Tennessee Golf Foundation regarding the 9-hole Vinnie Leaks Golf Course at Shelby Park. Motion and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. RS 2014-1326 approves a utility easement contract for the purpose of reimbursing Metro Water Services for the cost of acquiring replacement easements estimated to be $12,100. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? No discussion in the queue. Motion passes. We're going to take 2014-1327 approves a utility relocation contract for the purpose of reimbursing Metro Water Services for the cost of moving water and sewer lines estimated to be $347,465. Motion second. Duly second. I'll second. Any discussion? Council Lady Allen.
I just have a question about the highway project that's causing all these things to need to be moved. Do we know what that is?
From Public Works.
Public Works.
Jim Snyder, Metro Water, and thank you for passing this legislation so we get reimbursed for the water line moves, but it's those ramps and intersections right near the heart of the city, if you will. So as they go through and make those improvements to improve the traffic flow, obviously some of the utilities have to be relocated.
Thank you, and I like the reimbursement part of it. Thank you. Seeing no other in discussion, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. RS 2014-1328 approves an amendment to an agreement between the U.S. Army and Metro Water Services for the Mill Creek Watershed feasibility study in Davidson County by increasing Metro in-kind contribution by $125,000. Have a motion? And duly seconded. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. RS 2014-1334 authorizes the Department of Law to settle the lawsuits brought by Jason Tucker, Melissa Tucker, Larry Riley, and Diane Riley against the Metropolitan Government for a total amount of $600,000. I have a motion. Duly seconded. We have Council Lady Allen. Are you in the queue?
No, that's left on.
That's an old one. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. BL 2014-979 authorizes the acquisition of permanent and temporary drainage easements for the realignment of 1,000 linear feet of water main and a pressure-reducing valve for properties in relation to the Davison and Brook Hollow Sewer Line project at an estimated acquisition cost of $3,000. I have a letter from Councilman Todd. Do I have a motion? Second. Any discussion? He's pretty easy. Seeing none, all in favor? He's done it before. All opposed? Motion passes. That concludes the Budget and Finance Committee's docket.